Hey, hello, welcome everybody. I am again, as every month, talking about zeros and jewelry. My name is Nacho Riesco. I will be here during the next 2 hours, sculpting a new design, jewelry design. So, welcome to everybody who are watching this video in live, and thanks to all of you who are watching the video once recorded. So, as I said before, I try to make one streaming every month. You know, if you are familiar with my work, you know that I am here talking about jewelry most of the time, organic designs, 100% made with ZBrush. And today we are about to start a new one. I try to be streaming at least during 3 live sessions with the same design, and today it's going to be the first day when we are going to start a completely new one. So if before start working, just let me know if the music is sounding on your side properly. I mean, it's not too loud, so I think for me it's a bit loud, so let me adjust it. Okay, just let me know. You can listen it, but it's not over my voice. And I'm trying to keep checking all the settings of the streaming. Looks like everything is working fine, so let's go ahead. So as I said before, today is going to be the first day of a new design, but in the meantime I will show you what I was doing during my previous 3 streamings, just if any of you are interested on my work. So you can go to my YouTube channel. I think I recommend to you to visit my YouTube channel instead of the Maxon YouTube channel, because I don't know why the collection of all of my previous streaming is not complete if you go to the Maxon ZBrush channel. But if you go to my channel, you can see just as easy as writing down my name. It's Nacho Riesco, YouTube Nacho Riesco. But anyway, here it's below you can see you have access to my link tree, so you can use that address, so it will point you to all of my places of my social media websites. And then if you scroll down, you will find here my ZBrush live streams collection, or the whole list. And you can see here I was making this little bird during my 3 previous streamings, and today, before this design, I was making this koi ring with a Japanese fish. This is this. And today we're going to start a new one. Just if any of you is interested on following me on my YouTube channel, here you have access to the whole collection of my ZBrush live streamings. So let's see, let's close this, or maybe even better than close it, let me put it here. So during the live, I will try to pay attention as more as possible to your questions or to your comments. And so you have any comment or any question related about what I'm doing, or about what I was doing on my previous streaming, or any other kind of stuff, of course related to ZBrush, just write your comments on the box and let's go. So hey Fexter, how you doing? Here I am again. I really appreciate that you are here during all of my streams. I really appreciate it. So that you are here as the first guy saying hi, so it's much better to feel that you are not alone, so during the streaming. So I really appreciate it coming for you. And yes, my trip to New York was very good. I was enjoying it a lot. I'm back here again in Spain again, ready for keep working and keep earning money. This is what we need, so just to pay the bills. Okay, let's see. Looks like everything is working. Let me check it twice. So yeah, looks like it works. Okay, the idea that I have for today You know that I love to to work with the snakes, or to try to incorporate, or to use a snake as a main theme of all of my designs. And we have now this year a great excuse, like this is the Chinese, the wooden snake year, so this is a very good excuse, that I said before, to start making a new design with composed by a snake, or as a main subject, the snake. So this is what I was making, this board of ideas with a collection of different ideas. Let me share it with you. Here, this is my pure ref board. When I will start creating a new brooch, you know that I love this. Could be the main thing that I love to sculpt the most, is the making brooches. That means I feel that I less limited when you are making a ring, for example. When you are more limited about the weight, about the size of the design. When you are creating a brooch, maybe you have more space, more room for the creativity, for expanding your ideas, or playing a little bit more with the composition. So you are about to create a little bit more bigger uh, object than a ring. So maybe that's the reason why I prefer to sculpt brooches instead of maybe pendants or rings. And the idea that I have is, of course, as I said before, this is the 2025 is the year of from the Chinese calendar of the wooden snake. And this is here we have a collection of different ideas, and we are going to try to create maybe a minimalistic. I'm not going to make a very complicated or intricate design. And means I like to create simple things, but at the same time try to find a good balance between beauty and simplicity. And the main idea is grabbing from this illustrations, where you can see that a snake is coiled, or is grabbing um, a branch with flowers. I mean, maybe with simple flowers. It's not going to be so complicated at this one. At the same time, I love this kind of ancient drawings from the Chinese culture, where you can see the snake is just made with a simple stroke from a brush. That means that we are not going to create a very detailed snake from an anatomical point of view. We are going to try to make a stylized body with a stylized scales and so on. At this point, they are just ideas. That means that, as usual, we are going to start from scratch, from zero, having anything in mind. So we are going to try to develop in the design at the same time that we are being sculpting on the surface. And this is the main idea comes from this kind of drawings made by ink, with very loose strokes, with not with a lot of detail. And with this drawing has more detail, but we are not going to go into this direction. That means that here we have a very realistic snake, with all of the scales on the body flowing, the direction of the body. We are going to try to find something more simple, or at the same time, here you have another example, maybe too detailed for me, but just for showing to you the idea of the brooch. And this is more or less more ideas. And this is I grabbed this picture. This is the picture where I'm going to take, I'm going to grab the color scheme. I don't know how to say, the colors that we are about to use on the design. That means that we are going to make a mix of green and white, or maybe green, white, and light pink for the flowers, and maybe a kind of gold or dark brown for the branches. That means that the main color will be green and white. That means that maybe the idea that I have now is to using white gold and emeralds on the body, and try to find system or a method to apply uh, light pink enamel on the flower's surface. This, as I said before, they're just ideas. We are going to develop those ideas during the streamings, but this is the main ideas. And this is just for grabbing more inspiration, but now directly related with the jewelry designs. I grabbed some here where you can find here that the idea that I was talking about before, where we have snakes, but they are not 100% detailed snakes, where maybe this, yes, but this is the one idea that I love. This is the idea that we have here, where we can put stones flowing on the body of the snake, like the same thing here and the same thing here. That means that the body of the snake it's not going to be fully sculpted, so we're going to put the stones of the body, and this is what we have. And also here I have two references. It comes from a jeweler, from a British designer called Jacques Duros. I don't know how to pronounce it, I'm sorry, but this designer was one of my initial inspiration when I came into the jewelry design. This one was published in ZBrush Central years ago, and it was and my beginnings of the jewelry industry. It was one of my references, not only this one, but the whole collection of from this British jewelry designer. So this is the reason why here you have the ZBrush as sculpting, and here we have the final physical piece. And this is a very huge, very big brush. Mine is not going to be so big and so detailed, but just for giving to you as a reference. And for example, this one I like the simplicity of this one with the shapes of the body. I will try to replicate this idea, at least for the head. Or as I said before, they are just initial ideas that I have in mind, and here we will be during today and during the next two streamings developing this idea and making a brooch, and let's see what comes out. So let's put this here, maybe let's put this here on my left. Let me know if you have any questions. I try to do my best with the English, so let me know if you didn't understand anything or I didn't pronounce it properly. So just my voice is a bit small. Okay, let's see. Maybe let's see if I can enhance my microphone. Looks good. I think everything is fine. Here, at least I'm using the same settings as my previous streamings. Just let me know, maybe, but let me know if the music is, maybe it's too loud. Maybe that's the reason why my voice is a bit small. But anyway, welcome, Deb. Long time to see you. I try to be here every month, so, but I don't have any specific day during the month. I try to book my streamings at the middle of the month, so I will try to find a place for the next month, for May, but I'm trying to be here every month or once a month at least. I like back one. Okay, so let's start working. So let me put this, let's fix it. Let's mode always on top. As I said before, I'm going to try to make something simple, not very complicated, but at the same time to try to find a good balance between beauty and simplicity. Just for, don't try to make a very complicated to manufacture a piece of jewelry. Always, when we are creating jewelry, you should keep in mind the cost of the prices of the production, of the manufacturing processes. If we add a lot of complicated processes, finishing processes, we will increase the price, we will increase the manufacturing time. And during the designing process is a good idea to try to keep under control those things. So to try to don't make very expensive difficult to manufacture designs. So let's start. Every time when I was the first things that do when I start making a bridge during all of my streamings, most of the time I start from a plane. Let's drop it on the canvas, and let's change material, and let's make a polymesh. And because I try the first thing that I do is to try to create a template. The template is telling to me how big. In this case, when we are creating a bridge, we are going to be worried about most of the time, mostly the height of the design. That means from top to bottom. This is going to be the key measurement where it's going to be more important. Of course, the thickness is going to be important as well. We are creating a bridge, but at first point, maybe it's the first step to take is to try to take the decision of how big is going to be the object that we are about to design and we are about to create inside of ZBrush. That's the reason why I start from a plane, because I will use a plane as a template, as I said before. Let's open here my left tray. Let's go to the C plugins and let's go to the scale master. You know, all of you know that this is the place where we can tell to ZBrush the units of measurements that we are going to use. That's the place where we can control many different units of measurements inside of ZBrush. First step, set the scene scale. We are going to work in millimeters. This is the current measurements of the plane. It has 1.5 by 2 millimeters. Of course, it has 0 millimeters because it has any thickness. But let's me grab my caliper. I'm going to use my caliper because just put him on my chest, because the idea is to let's see that we can create a bridge of 60 millimeters from top to bottom. Maybe it has sense, because the idea that I have, or it's for making a brooch or art design that can be worn by both by a man or for a woman. That means that if we are having this reference, for example, the suit, I'm saying that we are creating we're about to create a design composed by 16 millimeters. I think it is not too big, it's not too small. Maybe during the designing process, maybe we can change our mind. Maybe we can go smaller or even bigger, but let's try to make it bigger than 65 millimeter. Maybe it's going to be a good reference. Let me close this, and then it's time to come back to ZBrush, set the scene, and let's say when ZBrush is reading 2 millimeters in the y-axis, we can tell to ZBrush we want 65. Okay, it's important to keep this button active, the art that we have here. That means that we are going to change the units proportionally. That means if we change one, the R should be active, 65. That means that we are changing one, the others will be changed accordingly with the new value, with the new measurement. And let's now if we come back to the set scene, you can see now ZBrush is reading the right measurements. It has 65 millimeter by 45 millimeter. Probably the wide is not, and I don't care about how wide it is now. It almost 50 millimeter wide. That means from left to right. But at this point, it's not going to be very important, because as I said before, at this point I'm only worried about the height, the total height, 65 millimeter. Let me save this thing, and this is the streaming number 20, and this is going to be the wooden snake brooch. number 1. Okay, done. Okay, it's me with the username Violet Ibergat. Welcome, Violet. You watched my whole series last month about. I really appreciate that you was watching my previous streamings. Hope you like them. Yeah, I was sculpting that little bird on my previous stream, and welcome back. Just let me know if you have any questions or comments of this streaming or during or about what I'm doing. Let's go. So I think the first thing, or maybe it's going to have more sense to start sculpting or start creating the branch itself. Then once we have the branch, maybe we can start deciding placing the snake over the branch or coil it on the branch. So for making the branch, maybe we can start with a cylinder. Let's append a cylinder. Every time that you are creating physical objects, of course, that means that I want to say that I mean that you are not creating stuff for maybe for video games or for animation or for keep the thing that you are doing inside of a computer. That means that don't forget that we are about to create a physical object. So during my whole process, I should be worried about measurements, like in real life. When you are sculpting something with your hands, if we are talking about jewelry, most of the times the things are made in jewelry starting from pieces of metal. Or for example, if you are sculpting elements, you are using most of the time you are using wax for sculpting the objects or the little sculptures that you are doing when you are when we are talking about jewelry. So we always start from a piece of material. It doesn't matter if that material it's a block or a wire of metal or a piece of a block or a piece of wax to work with. That means that it is important how big is that object. So that means that we are about to create a branch. Maybe first step to take is decide how thick is this, how big is this, because we should know that, because maybe we are sculpting something beautiful, but maybe it's going to be very thin and very easy to break in the real life. So we should know that this is going to be strong enough, or it's going to be inconsistent enough in real life. So at this moment, this little cylinder has, as most of all of the primitives, ZBrush primitives have, the measurements. It's 2 millimeters by 2 millimeters by 2 millimeters. If you take your ruler or your caliper on your hands and you put 2 millimeters, this is a very, very, very thin piece or very thin amount of material. That means maybe as a starting point, as we are going to create an organical branch, it's going to be necessary to sculpt the surface, pushing in the geometry and carving on the surface. Maybe we are going to need more material. Let's see if we tell to ZBrush that we want a 4 millimeter cylinder. It's going to be 4 millimeter. Okay, this is 4 millimeter. Let me check it again. This is 65. No, I did something wrong. This should be again 65 millimeter. Okay, we are back again with this, and for any reason ZBrush deform the cylinder. Let's go back from history. Let's see here, and this is 4 millimeter. Okay, we have 4 millimeter, 65 total height. So 4 millimeter, maybe it looks very thick, but as a starting point, it's going to be enough. Maybe we can go, let's say 3.5 instead of 4, a little bit smaller, like this. Maybe 3. It looks thick. Yeah, okay, let's see. Let's go into the limits of this. let's change the topology, because now you can see that polygons, they are too long and they are going to be very difficult to transform or getting soft curves. In this case, maybe we're not going to use any polygroups yet, but we can go to geometry and let's click on the default settings. But maybe if you are getting this, you can see you have more density here at the bottoms where the mesh it's closer to the edges. If you are looking for more regular distribution of polygons, I recommend you to change this setting. Coming back to series measure, I change the value of the adaptive size from 50 to 0, and let's say adapt again. As you can see here now, you are getting more regular polygons distribution on the surface. So let's see. Okay, and let's go with the gizmo. You know, clicking on the gear, you have a very useful option here called bend curve, when you can apply more control points, and maybe we can start trying to find an interesting flowing, maybe like this. If we are, let me check the references. Let's see, maybe we can create one angle or two angles, one corner or two corners. Maybe it's going to be better to, as the snake is going to have more corners, or maybe it's going to be better to keep the branch more simple. Let's say accept as a starting point, and now we can grab the move infinitive brush. Maybe we can try to find something interesting, and for example playing with a mask and trying to break here, and maybe we can use the clip curve. This is going to be the front view, right? So let me break this. And one brush that I love to use when I am trying to find forms is this one, Trim Dynamic. It's like when you are using a file or a sanding tool, when you're going to be able to break the surface like this. Keep in mind that you use the Alt key. Maybe we can, we are not using very thick amount of geometry. Maybe if we turn on the backface max, is going to be better. See, using the Alt key, it's very good to get this kind of finishing on the corners. It's like you are pushing out the geometry, but it ends in a flat, with a flat surface. Let's see, something like this. Just keep using the move infinitive with the AQ curve. The AQ curve is very handy for getting corners or pointy endings like this. And maybe we can start, and going from the side view. Of course, as a brush, it's going to be necessary or mostly vertical or flat, because we are going to wear it against the chest. So that means that hasn't too much sense for making a very volumetric with a lot of volume, which goes from the back to the front. It's going to be better to try to keep everything as closer to the chest or to a flat position, but we can break that boring vertical line just to break it a bit, something like this. And maybe we can try to find the points that they are going to lay on the chest. Here we have a vertical line as a reference. You can see here we are going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 4, like this. And looks like as a starting point, maybe I think it's gonna know. Pushing ball, welcome. Poly row next to the edges of the cylinder got chamfered with series measure. Why does it keep them straight? What do you mean? Let me. Row next to the edges of the cylinder got chamfered with series measure. Yeah, I think, for example, if you are looking for, we start again from a cylinder, for example, like this. I repeat the same operation as you were saying. So if you go here and you go series measure as I did before, changing for 50 to 0, I can adapt. So you can see maybe you are referring to this, that the polygons start getting chamfered here. That means that you are losing the edge or the sharp edge, this limit between those two planes. If you don't want to you want to keep or to retain the edges as sharper as possible, you need to take an extra step, is going to polygroups and change the polygroup distribution. That means here we have a very useful button called where are you? It's groups by normals. By default, clicking on this button, by default ZBrush will apply a different polygroup to a different normal distribution of polygons. And now we have a limit between this face and this face, and then getting different polygroups is going to be as easy as coming back to the series measure, using the same setting here, but you should turn this on. Just turning this on, you click to series measure and you will get a new topology with a sharp limit between the two different polygroups. As we're about to sculpt an organical shape, I was not worried about the edges, so because we are not creating a hard surface stuff or hard surface, we are not looking for a hard surface finishing. We are looking for more organical or curved, not flat straight surfaces. For that reason, I didn't create different polygroups and I didn't use this technique. But if you are looking for keeping the edges, this is the best way to keep the edges when you are creating a new mesh with the series measure option. Hope it helps to you. Hey Travis, welcome. Okay, let's come back to our branch. Okay, let me check one message. Okay, so let's come back to the branch. Okay, you know that at any time when you are sculpting, for example, we were starting from a regular shape. We know at that point that it had 3 millimeters cubical volume, or it had 3 millimeters thickness. But during the sculpting process, we were breaking the regular forms and we are getting more organical form and non-regular distances. But during the sculpting process, for example, let's see, I will try, for example, if we grab the inflate brush, we can make it this part thicker and maybe this part thicker, for example, not so thick, like this. And if we are using the Alt key, we can make this thinner, we can make this thinner, thicker. We go from thick to thin, something for getting even more organical finishing. But if you want to know at any point, as I was started explaining before, we should be worried about the measurements during the sculpting process. You know that you can go from the gizmo to the transpose line, just pressing the Y, and you can start taking measurements. You zoom in. For example, if I want to know how thick is this, from left to right, I'm taking this measurement, and ZBrush is telling to me here on my top left corner, here I'm having 2.247. Maybe we can say we are reaching 2.3 millimeters. That means that maybe it's that area maybe could be a little bit dangerous in terms of thickness. Maybe it's too thin, so we should be try to keep this not so thin. Maybe we can keep this view because we like how it works from the top, but for getting that area, be sure that this is not going to be very easy to bend and very easy to break. What we can do is we can grab any of the move brushes, we can turn on our back face mask, and then we can apply here more thickness. So here we're having here more than 3 millimeters, so we are getting inside of the more safe measurements. So it still have 2 millimeters from the front, but it's thicker on the front to the back, so I think it's going to be strong enough this way. Anyway, we are at the very starting point. We will be sculpting this branch during the process, so we don't have to be now very worried about what I'm doing now, because we are not creating 100% finished part of the design, but it works. Maybe at this point you can see how the geometry looks like, because we were using the move, we were using the inflate brush, so we were stretching or stressing the geometry. Now maybe it's a good point to start changing the topology. Maybe it's a good point to start telling to ZBrush that we are looking for double amount of polygons, because we have a more detailed surface than before. So let's click on series measure with the double option active, and now with the symmetry turned off, and that's it. This is the new mesh. Hola Alejandro, bienvenido, gracias por estar aquí. Si tienes alguna pregunta, aunque sea en español, te contesto. The jeweler, thank you so much for streaming. Do you own your own store where you sell? No, or do you make design for different already stores? Yeah, this is my work. I work as a digital sculptor. Most of the job that I do are related to jewelry designs, but different than that, I am also making many different stuff. Everything related to the jewelry. No, I'm sorry. Everything related to digital sculpting. I mean, I am sculpting furniture. I'm sculpting figures. I'm sculpting things for house, decorative forms, many different things. You can see, that with ZBrush you can do almost everything. But maybe I can say, maybe 70 or 80% of the jobs of the commission that I receive are related to jewelry designs. When we are talking about jewelry design, I'm talking about rings, we're talking about brooches, pendants, maybe medals, reliefs placed on a medal or a coin. But I only work as a designer. I don't like to call myself a designer. I prefer to call myself a digital sculptor, of ZBrush digital sculptor. So I don't pretend to make design and start selling them as a jewelry products. I work for jewelers, private or brands. That's my point. De nada, Alejandro. So this is the starting point. Okay, we know from top to bottom we are having some here. We have something wrong, maybe 80. And ZBrush is telling to me it is okay. Yeah, it has sense, because I think I have to see the limits of the template that I was doing at the beginning of the stream. You can see here my top left corner, ZBrush is telling to me we are having a branch of almost 85 millimeter. That means that it should be smaller. Maybe we can, let's send it to the center. Trick, make it not that big, maybe making it something like this. It is now from top to bottom. Okay, we can use the scale master. It is 66.4 millimeter. Okay, has more sense. And now we can keep polishing. Maybe we can keep using the same brush as before, the Trend Dynamic, or you can change to the H polish. More or less the results are almost the same. I love to use this brush with the Alt key pressed, as I'm doing now, to start getting planes. You can see here, it's like we are breaking the continuity of curved surfaces. So we are start creating. It also depends on the kind of branch that we want to create, but I think like this, maybe this view is too thick. Maybe we can remove a bit of material here. Or if we want to make a secondary branch, we can make something like this. Okay, I think it's going to be enough like this. So maybe here we can break it. We said that this is going to be the front view, right? This is going to be the front view. Maybe we can move with back face for adding more thickness here. Maybe we can, the ending, try to get something like this. Maybe at the moment that we are now, maybe I'm start being too much worried about the design of the branch, but let's stop working on the branch. Okay, maybe we're gonna start, let's save this. So start thinking about the composition. Oh, oops, let's save it again. Webmaster, I was working with many different brands. I'm sorry, but I'm not allowed to call them or to name them, but most maybe we can say they are not very big brands. Maybe they are more brands related to small workshops or small brands. But you know. And John Miller, welcome. Nice to have you here on the streaming. The deal sounds great. And to answer my last question is, with the furniture you sculpt is the final product used for no for a I always, when I'm talking about digital sculpting, I'm always referring to physical objects. I'm not working for the video games industry or for the film industry. All the stuff that I do goes to a machine which manufacture the product that you are creating inside of ZBrush. You can use 3D printers, you can see CNC machines. Depending on the industry, you are making objects for many different kind of industries. But we are talking about the furniture. They are about to manufacture the physical furniture. Most of the time when I'm talking about digital sculpting for furniture, when it's where you are adding sculptural elements to the furniture object. For example, it's a closet or something, you know. It's made in person after sculpting. Yes, you can see that you can send the file that you are creating inside of ZBrush to a machine, which is in charge of transform the digital file into a physical product. And there are many different industries that are using ZBrush for sculpting, most of the time organical or sculptural elements applied to many different kind of products. Webmaster, let me check your comments or question just for be sure that it didn't miss any. Okay, let's. So another important element on the design, of course, the snake is going to be the main element of the design, but the flowers are going to be a very important part of the element of the design. And in terms of composition, it's going to be, I think, at this point, very important to start putting the flowers in place before I start sculpting or placing the snake on the branch. This is the front view. This is the front view. Okay, let's start creating. I am looking for, as I said before, not very complicated elaborated forms, simplify or stylized finishing. I like this kind of flowers. Maybe we can call them, this is the flowers come from cherry blossom flowers, or almond, from an almond tree, where we have maybe 4 petals when this kind of finishings at the end, with little I don't know how to name this in English, but not just having a circular thing in the middle, like a daisy, for example. Or here we are having like different I don't know how to call it, sticks, or I don't know how to call this part, the technical word in English, I mean. But I like this kind of design of a flower. You can see here, if we go to a physical, this is another kind of flowers, but maybe I prefer to keep the edges of the petal rounded instead of pointy like these ones, and with less, maybe with 5 petals, maybe they looks nice. But let's see if it works better, 4 or 5 petals. Let's see. Here we have more flowers. Maybe these flowers they are more complicated to reproduce on to work in metal, because always when we are designing something, we're creating a jewelry object, we should keep in mind always the scale of the object. And this is a very tiny object. That means that hasn't too much sense to start adding petals on petals, that if those petals are going to be a very small piece of metal, which is going to be very difficult to work with, to I think to make it bright, a high quality surface, or depending on the kind of finishing that we are looking for. But it has more sense to try to go to a more simplified forms instead of highly detailed surfaces. Here we have this kind of cherry blossom flowers where we have 6 petals instead of 5. Maybe 6 is they're going to be too much, because maybe here they are going to be maybe too much flowers on the design. I think at this moment I am thinking only about 2 flowers, not too much. Maybe 2 flowers and one, I don't know how to call this one. You have a flower, but it is not still open. It's still almost closed, like a third flower, like this. I'm talking about this. Maybe it could be a good design element, interesting element to add to the design. And let's see how it works. So let's start making flowers. So to start making flower, let's just start from a different subtool. I start most of the time, I'm gonna start from a plane. Let's make a polymesh. Let's turn on the symmetry. Let's try to decide now the shape of the petal. Maybe this kind of rounded edges. Let's turn on the symmetry. Let's grab, for example, this mask, and maybe we can create this kind of heart shape form. Let's go to hide polygons, delete hidden, and now we can go to the zero measure. Maybe we can looking for a double amount of polygons, like this. Let's polish it like this. Maybe let's start polishing. Maybe we can work a little bit more with the profile, still with the symmetry. Maybe we can, and this is going to be something like this. Maybe we can push this in. Maybe we can grab the middle. We can move this. Maybe we can bend this like this. You can see, you have noticed, you can see that I'm using with a mesh without any thickness. When I am creating leaves or flowers, petals, I like to start from one single side mesh without any thickness. And most of the time it's going to be very useful because you know that going to dynamic, you can turn on the dynamic subdivision. I don't want to apply any smoothing to the mesh, but I'm looking for thickness. Like this. You can see you can start playing with thickness, and then the decision that we should take is how big is going to be this. If we are talking about a flower, maybe we can say the petal could be, I'm using now the caliper to start taking the decision of how big, maybe 10 millimeters. If we decide that one petal has 10 millimeters, maybe the flower, whole flower is going to be a bit big. Maybe we can say 7, let's start with 7 millimeter from top to bottom. Let's click here. Currently it has 1.1 by 1.7, 1.27, but we said we are going to make it 7 millimeter. You can see it grows. Now you can see now the thickness that was applied before now is thinner than before, because now we are having a bigger object than before. And now it's going to be very important to start knowing the total thickness of the petal. Now it has now we take a ruler and we take this measurement, this thickness. Now we are having a piece of metal or a piece of material of 0.0842 millimeters. You can see it almost invisible, so it's very thin. So we are looking for example, we can apply more thickness, more thickness, more thickness to start getting something that has sense in terms of we should be thinking about the 3D printer that we are about to use, the casting process that we are available. That means maybe the minimum thickness that we should have here when we start creating the starting point for creating a flower petal should be around 0.8 millimeter, around 0.6, between 0.6 and 0.8. Maybe here we are having now with this thickness we have 0.48 millimeter. Maybe we are reaching the 0.5, half of a millimeter, 0.5 millimeter. And now with the thickness of, that's the problem, that we can't connect this value with this measurement. The only way that I have control is adding more manually and keep checking the amount of thickness that we are getting. Now we are having here 0.08. Now we are reaching 0.8 millimeter, and it has sense. Now we are having a petal of 10 millimeter high with 0.8 millimeter thick as a starting point. As I was saying before, when you are sculpting something, you grab the clay, or you grab the wax, or you grab the metal sheet or something to start working with, and you know which are the measurements of the block of material that you start sculpting from. So this is the volume of the object is very important. And I think another cool thing about this process is that you can control the offset. You can grow the thickness from the surface to the back in this place, or from the surface to the outside, or we can stay in the middle. In this case, staying in the middle is going to be a good option. And let's keep this. Let's make this thing smaller. Let's keep this. And now we can use now the ray mesh option to start making the radius distribution of the petals. The ray mesh is very handy when you are about to create flowers. Turning on the ray mesh. Now we can start rotating. Let's try find the right axis. In this case, it's going to be the Z axis. We are 360 degrees. And now we can, okay, now the problem that we are having here is you just start repeating. You can see here now the object is rotating from the center. So but we are looking for to change the pivot or the rotation point. The way that you can change that is locking the position of the object and reset the pivot point. And now you change now the amount here as we did before, 360, and you change now the options, you can see now it works. And then you can start repeating the number of petals, maybe 4, maybe like this. I don't know, maybe it's gonna work better 5. What do you think? I think looks better with 5 than with 4, right? Maybe we can keep changing the shape of the petal like this, or getting a nice flower. Or maybe if I turn off my symmetry, maybe we can apply a little bit of rotation. Just for getting more something like this. Let's change the topology. And like this, we can, I think like this is going to be gonna work. Maybe we can make a flower which is closer, maybe like this. Let's save this file as the master file for the flowers, where we have all the control. Would you know that where the ray mesh is active, where you are just only acting, or you are making the actions of on the master mesh. In this case is this one, and you can start changing the shape, and you are able to replicate what you are doing in one mesh to all of the copies. That's the reason why this is going to be the master file, because with only one petal you are going to be able to create very different versions from the same flower before convert this into a physical mesh, because we are just rendering how it looks like through the ray mesh. You can see if I turn this off, we are still working on only one piece of with only one mesh. But if we are happy, if we click on make mesh, you can see now the ray mesh setting disappear, but you can't control them as before. So that's the reason why I like to keep this as the master. So let's duplicate and let's save this file as flower, for example. Flower. Okay, let me check your comments. Let's stop working. Alejandro is asking, would you please give me an idea how to export setting from 3D printing for 3D printing? I 3D print and then cast, but I am actually using GH. What do you mean with GH? With GH, and I am new to ZBrush. What do you mean with you are saying that you are using Alejandro and you are using GH? You have not done this process in ZBrush, and which is the I'm understanding that we can say that once you're having your job done, I think your design is ready for send it out for 3D printing, and you are asking which is the necessary steps for making inside of ZBrush before export the final STL file, maybe? Just for be sure that I am understanding to you properly. Save it. Grasshopper. Okay. Yeah, I know. Conozco. I know Grasshopper. Okay, for example, let's see. For example, if we decide this, if for example you're about to export the file for 3D printing. For example, let's make this. Let's turn this off. Let's go to array mesh. Let's make mesh. So we can decide this mesh is ready for being 3D printed. So as easy as going to the export button here, and here you will have different options. I mean, different file formats. You can select the format you like. If we are talking about 3D printing, most of the time with the STL, and you will be able to export this file as an STL. So with an STL, you can send it out for printing on any 3D printer, and that's it. This is the simple way to export any things from ZBrush to STL, because here you can see in my here we are reading as active points. We are using very low poly mesh. That means that we are working with a very small amount of polygons. For example, if you are making a much more complicated object and you are reaching millions of polygons, you know that you can use millions or millions of polygons when you are using ZBrush. You should take a previous step before clicking on the export button. You should go to the plugins here and go to the decimation master. That means that ZBrush will decimate, will remove a big amount of polygons from your mesh, just for making a more friendly mesh for being exported and handle it and use it as a STL file. So for here you have different presets. You can see the K, that means 1000. You can export your mesh. For example, the main reference for me, it's this one, 150,000 polygons. It's going to be enough for being open on any other external software like Grasshopper or like Rhino or any other controller software for any 3D printer. So that means that if you are using millions of polygons, you should take this previous step before hitting the export button, because you can export an STL composed by 5 million polygons, because it's going to be very difficult or complicated to handle inside of a different software. And that's it. Let me know if I already answered your question or... Maxon, now we are all printing Maxon. Should start to think how to charge things to get okay, let me see your question. By now we are all printing Maxon. Should start to think how to change things to get everything in the real measurement. Until now, it's always a guess. I'm trying. I don't understand what you are saying that, because you are able to have under control the measurements during the whole process inside of ZBrush, and even you can use different scale units. I don't understand which is the problem, because we are sending out an object of 10 millimeters to a printer. If you have been creating an object inside of ZBrush of 10 millimeters, you are going to get a 10 millimeter object on the printer. So maybe the way of working that ZBrush has compared with on other softwares is a bit different to have the measurements under control, but at the end we are going to have the same thing. Oh, let me know which are the kind of issues you were having with measurements or with the scale inside of ZBrush. Maybe I can give you my point of view. Helen, do you have your ZBrush UI available for download? Yes. And the MDK, you can go to my website. As I said before, let me show you. You go to my link tree. You have here. Let me go, because now it's too bright here. Here my below here you have written linktree / Nacho Riesco. My name is this site. I will put it on the chat for you. It's gonna be easier to find them. So let me put it on the chat like this. Alejandro, sí, el Decimeter Master es el paso, lo diezmas o lo decimateas, como quieras decirlo. El archivo le restas la cantidad de polígonos que sobran, entre comillas, para que sea la malla más ligera, y ya lo puedes exportar a cuando quieras. And okay, I was talking about my user interface. If you go to my link tree, you will find here my website button. If you go here, you can go to my resources section. Then you scroll down, you can see it's going to be a side of different, for example, material packs from ZBrush, or for example, in this case, this STL of this phantom pendant that I made time ago. You will find here different alphas if you want. but just keep scrolling at the bottom. Here you will get my custom interface. Just clicking here, you will get access to the file, and then we'll be able to download, and that's it. Gracias, Alejandro. De nada, Alejandro. Yes, Grasshopper, it is a very interesting software. You know that its way of working is completely different than ZBrush. I liked what it does, but my mind doesn't work that way. I'm more a sculpting guy. I need to have the feeling that I'm sculpting something with my hands, like that when you are using ZBrush. But the Grasshopper is a very cool software, and you're able to create very complicated and very cool things with it. But the way of working is completely different, you know. But I can just explain how to work with real units. I was explaining it from the beginning of the streaming. As you know, most of us, yes, we start with a sphere and we are building a robot, which is huge. When I import that image, it's so tiny. Yeah. This is a. You are right. You are right. You have written the key when the things that you are sculpting from scratch with ZBrush. For example, if we go to a sphere, you was referring, for example, you start from a sphere. Most of the time we start always from a sphere. For example, we convert it into a polymesh and we start sculpting from this object. I always say that you should take the decision of, if you want to work with real measurements, okay, all the measurements are real, but you can understand that if you want to apply the scale of the object at the beginning of the process, you will apply the scale of the object at the end of the process. When I am saying process, is the sculpting session. When you are done, your design, your character, or whatever is done, you can, at that point, you can give the real units or the scale of that object. Or as I was saying, as I was making it since the beginning of the streaming, I was setting the measurement at the beginning of the sculpting process, because I need to know how big or how small the things are during the whole process. Because when we are creating a jewelry object, we should know how thick is this in terms of parts of a millimeter. The parts of a millimeter in jewelry, they are very important. For example, if you start from a sphere, all of the primitives to use inside of ZBrush, for example, if I use a sphere, if we go to the scale master, I'm reading the measurement, it has 2 by 2 by 2 millimeter. For example, if we use the star, we convert it into polymesh, it has again 2 millimeters. In this case, it's not 2 by 2 by 2 because the object is not and it's not regular in the 3 axes, but you can see it again, the 2 millimeter appears again. For example, if you select for example, I don't know, the cylinder, you can make a polymesh and it still has 2 millimeters. The conclusion with this measurement means that maybe ZBrush likes to work with a small object. We start talking with real measurement. That means that you can start sculpting, or you can start making your robot or whatever you are doing inside of ZBrush from this point, and all of the stuff that you are doing in the real life, it is a very tiny object. But for example, the second choice that you have is to start working with real scale of the object, as I did before at the beginning of the stream. For example, if you have planned to start with a sphere and the unit of a scale, for example, if you are making a character, a robot or whatever, it's going to be the head. So for example, you should decide first how big is going to be necessary to be this head. For example, you can start reading the real units, 2 by 2 by 2, but in your real life object, you have planned, for example, that the object of your character is going to be 40 millimeters or 60 millimeters. So then it's time to start changing the size at the beginning of the process. So let's go in here, and now you can change from 2 to 60, for example, to 40 millimeters, and let's make a ball of 40 millimeters. Now this object has 40 millimeter high. So if you keep sculpting, adding the torso, adding the arms on the legs and so on, you will get at the end of the process, it only necessary thing that it's going to be necessary to make is click on the export, and the object will get the real scale of the character. But as you are doing, I am guessing, as you are doing, you were starting from primitives, and the primitives have a very small scale. And this is that you should start giving the units at the beginning of the process. For example, if you start from this point and you start grabbing the move brush and you start planning to make two horns like this, very simple horns, right? Like this, and you want to know how long are they, changing from the gumball to the gizmo, you can start taking measurements from the base till the end of the horn, and see here you are having here on the top left corner, they have 19 millimeter long, and they are at the tip, because for example you can be worried about the quality of your printer, because maybe the tip is going to be too thin. If you want to measure the tip has, if you zoom in to have more accuracy of on your measurement from left to right, here you're having 4.5 millimeter. That means that you started with a calibrated scale object since the beginning of the sculpting process. If you start from a sphere, from a primitive as default setting inside of ZBrush, you are started sculpting with very small tiny objects. That's the reason why when you export it from ZBrush to Maya, for example, or to any other external software, the object appears very small, almost invisible on your viewport, because you were using the ZBrush units of a scale since the beginning of the process, because you didn't change the size of the object at the beginning. I would love to apply to start setting the real measurement. Yes, that's it. I always say that once you start opening ZBrush, you have two ways. For example, my business is to start creating objects, which it's going to be necessary to manufacture with real machines, with 3D printers, or with CNC machines, or with any other kind of technologies. But I should go through the path of to start giving the real scale measurements to the object since the beginning of the process, because I should be worried about the measurements during the whole designing and sculpting process. If you are just sculpting, you are just making objects on your screen, maybe you can start from primitives, because you are not worried about the measurements. You are just worried about how beautiful the things you are doing looks on the screen, but they are not going to be necessary to be manufactured with a machine or with a printer. But you should take the decision at the beginning of, at the moment that you are opening ZBrush, you are going to take the path or the way to start working with a calibrated scale, or you don't worry about the scale, you are just worried about creating some concept art or digital art that it's going to be printed or use it on a video game or whatever. Or even where video games should have should be calibrated in terms of, for example, if your character is going to be placed on an environment, you have been making a tree, the tree should be calibrated compared to a human, whatever. But you can take that decision at the beginning of the process, given the real calibrated scale to the object at the beginning of the sculpting process. Yeah, for ZBrush 1 unit it's 2 millimeter. Yeah, we can. This is very simple to say, but maybe we can take that rule. But this is not completely true, because when you are using units, for example, let's go to deformation. You can't apply 1 unit. Maybe 1 unit could be 1 millimeter if you set the scene to 1 millimeter. Now you are saying to ZBrush 1 unit means 1 millimeter. When you are saying 1 unit is equal to 2 millimeters, it's not 100% true. Now let me check your comments. Where do one find companies to send a portfolio to if one is trying to get into the jewelry digital sculpting industry? I think based from my experience, I didn't send portfolios to any company or any person. I just keep posting or making the stuff or keep posting it on my social media. So the only tip or that I can give you is to try to create a profile, a professional profile related of the kind of job that you are doing. That means that you are trying to people interested on your jewelry design start to start making a portfolio, an art station only for that purpose. Maybe the people who are interested on jewelry design will find you and will contact you, and the same thing with Instagram and with Facebook. I think today, or at least based from my experience, I didn't send any portfolio to a company or to person. I just keep posting, making products and keep posting them on the social on the internet, using mainly using Instagram, LinkedIn, for example, and ArtStation, and from time to time in Facebook also. Okay, let's keep working on the flower. Yeah, the transpose is one measurement tool is ZBrush. Maybe we can tell Forrest, we can say that transpose is, maybe we can call it the ruler. It's the tool that we have inside of ZBrush where we can control distances from point to point. Maybe we can call it a ruler, but you can, the plugins or the tools that you have inside of ZBrush, where ZBrush is talking about millimeters, for example, real units. The main plugin is this one, the Scale Master, where you can set the scene scales, and you can, ZBrush is telling to you the limits, the bounding box or the limits of the objects in millimeters or any other different units than centimeters, inches on fits. Also, you have different places. For example, you can another external plugin that I use many times is this one. For example, the precision extract. I will give you, for example, here I have a good example now to talk to you about this plugin. For example, let's create a duplicate of this one. Let's this one is still a ray mask. Let's turn it off. Let's go to ray mask, turn this off. Let's go to dynamic. Let's turn this off. We are still working with a simple side mesh. We can create a mask of everything. And here you have this very useful plugin called Precision Extract, where you can control the thickness in millimeters. For example, if I was looking for, as I did before, a 0.8 millimeter thickness block or starting piece of material, we can type here 0.8, sorry, and now create the precision extract. And this is what we have. The problem that I am having, I did something wrong here. I will show you why. Okay, I'm using the transpose. You can see from left to right, instead of 0.8 millimeters, I'm getting 1.6, the double amount. That's the reason why it's as simple as, if I turn this off, I come back again to the mask surface. Is the reason why I have this button active. That means the ZBrush will extract the same amount to both sides. If we are looking for only to one side, we should turn this off first, and now we can keep here. And now here we have a new subtool with a 0.8 millimeter thickness. This is another way, very cool way, a very useful way to control thicknesses inside of ZBrush. And another option that we have here, this another external, it's necessary to uninstall this plugin, and also this one is the IMM draw size. Here I'm reading again the word or the unit millimeter, another place where ZBrush is talking to us in millimeters, is giving to us information in millimeters. For example, if I'm looking for start placing in stones on the surface of this petal, for example, I can grab this hand brush that I have here, like this. If I'm looking for 1 millimeter stone, we can say 1, press enter and click on this button. And now at any time I'm growing the mask, if I press the control key, I will block the stones to 1 millimeter. So if I go here, if I take the measurements with the ruler, with a transpose line from this vertex to this vertex, you can see here I'm getting 1 millimeter stones. In this case, okay, it's 0.9921 millimeter, 1 millimeter stone. So this is another help that you have inside of ZBrush to have the measurements under control. Another place that you can find more buttons with millimeters, it's with this plugin, Dynamesh utility, where you can make object hollow inside, having under control the wall thickness. In this case, in millimeters. For example, we have an object, we want to make it hollow with 0.5 millimeter wall thickness, we can control that thicknesses here in millimeters. Okay, we have many different ways today to have under control measurements inside of ZBrush without any problem, believe me, because I work with physical objects. You can do it. What about it? Thank you about this condition. But this is condition. There is no units counting in ZBrush menu. Okay, depends. You have the units you have in different places. For example, if you are, you go to the extract as I did before. Here we have 0.02. They are units, ZBrush units. It hasn't any sense in millimeters. But if you go, instead of this button of extract, you go to the precision extract button, you have the units under control there, but not here. Yeah, it's a bit weird way of working, but at the end is 100% useful. Forest long hill is you calibrate transport by one of the axes. For example, I know that the ring size is 19 millimeters, and I calibrate transport by this value and then measurement everything. Yeah, and that you can do that, but in that case, I think it has more sense that the transpose is calibrated to millimeters instead of a size of a ring. But it could be a different way of working. But I'm using a paid version of ZBrush for iPad, so there is not a scale master yet. I don't know why. I don't know, maybe because I'm not an iPad user, maybe I will not be a iPad user in the future as well, but I don't know why he is not still using the scale master. The logo is still covering the top right corner. Okay, let me see. I try to move it a little bit, but looks like yeah, you're right. I need to move the logo a little bit to the left, maybe. If I turn this off, I will show you what I was saying before. Left to right. Here, my top left corner. Now I'm pointing here. It's a very tiny number, but here I'm reading it. It is 0.78 millimeter. Right. I'm sorry, I need to fix the top ribbon, because you can see here the logo is exactly covering here on top of the number of the measurement. I'm sorry about that, because I was talking about measurements because nobody was able to read them. Okay, I will try to fix them in my next streaming. Maybe we can put the logo here on mine instead of on the left, maybe on the right. Okay, let's see how I fix it. The Scale Master. I didn't know that the Scale Master was not available on the iPad version. And I'm still thinking why we need an iPad version, but just my personal opinion. Maybe in the future, maybe in the future, yeah. Because the Scale Master is very important, or at least we need a way where we need to tell to ZBrush the unit of a scale that we are using. So let's see. Just close the tray and you will see the numbers. That's the way that. Oh yeah. Let's see. No. Let's see now. The numbers are now hidden. And here, see. Here you can see the numbers now here. But if I keep the left tray open, okay, I think maybe the best way to fix this is moving the logo to the left, to the right, instead of keeping it here on my top left corner. Okay, okay. Thank you for the information. I will try to fix it on my future streamings, because most of the time I don't remember to keep hidden the keep it visible or keep it hidden the top ribbon information, just for giving to you the information of the measurement. Okay. Also, I have tried to move this number box here, or this box here, to move it to another place, but as far as I investigate, I think there isn't a way to move the information that you are getting here on your top left corner, to move it to another place to keep them more visible, or even make the numbers bigger. I think it's not able to modify that on the interface. Okay, let's keep working on the Alejandro. For me, it is comfortable. The April version, I mean, I can keep designing. Yeah, I think that's the main reason why you can be using ZBrush on a tablet. But I think, in my opinion, in terms of productivity, in terms of a professional usage of a professional tool like ZBrush, as a job for me, when I'm using ZBrush for 6 hours or 8 hours during the day, hasn't too much sense to have a different interface on a different device, like an iPad. For me, hasn't any sense, for me at least. And this, because hasn't sense to be working on the bed. So that means that when you are sitting on your couch, on your bed, just watching the TV or whatever, you are relaxing, you are at a place when you are taking a relaxing time, hasn't too much sense to be there still working on an iPad. Or I don't know, maybe for when you are traveling, for example, you are overloaded with work, with a lot of work. Maybe you need an extra time to put on ZBrush when you are traveling. That in that case, maybe it has sense for having an iPad to work with. But for me, even has more sense to have a good laptop with a small Wacom tablet, because maybe it will be even better to than work on an iPad for a professional usage. But okay, that's my personal opinion. Maybe it looks like more like a toy, like a video game, and you are using ZBrush just for fun, but not for working. That's, I know. Okay. So let's keep working on the flower. Let's see, what is my flower? We said this is going to be okay. Let's keep this like this, and let's go to the original, this one, and let's append. Oh, I think I select the wrong one, because if I come back here, and this is still Rainless, no? Maybe it's going to be this one. Maybe we can change the topology. And let's keep the same, keep the groups. Like this, maybe the double. Like this. Oh, okay, I know when it's happening, because I forgot to apply the dynamic subdivision. This is the maybe we can, this is the petal original, maybe I can get rid of this one. Let's delete this one, let's delete this one to don't be confused with non-useful subtools. And now maybe you can see I'm still using dynamic, so let's apply for getting real polygons. And now we can go here, and now we can append to the list the flower we just created with this. You can see now the flower compare with the, we were taking the measurement before. It is now the flower, it is 14 millimeter tall. Now it looks very tiny, 14 millimeter. We were deciding to make the flower or the petal, but we were talking about the petals. We are getting a flower of almost 14 millimeter. Maybe it's too small. Maybe the problem that we have here is if we make it thicker, we make it bigger, we are increasing the thickness of the petals. Maybe it's good now to remove the, just because as we are using different polygroups, let's Control Tab and select this, let's delete hidden, and let's go back to the dynamic with not that much. With the thickness, let's control the thickness. This is the reason why I prefer to use dynamic, because I can control, I can decide I want thicker, thinner, thicker, because at this point the flowers, they are not 100% sculpted, and we can have here 1.4 millimeter. Maybe it's too thick. Maybe we have here 0.7 millimeter. Maybe we can give a little bit more amount like this. Maybe we are having here 0.9 millimeter, almost 1 millimeter thickness. It's going to be good. So it's a good idea for working with dynamic subdivision. For example, if we go with any of the sculpting brushes and we start sculpting the petals, we are keeping the same thickness, because we are just, remember that we are just working with one single side mesh. Once we are happy, we can say the flower is 90% done or even 100% done, then we can apply the dynamic subdivision. But at this moment, I think it's going to be enough like this. And I was saying at the beginning of the session, the idea that I have in mind now is to make a little box here for applying a coating of enamel on the surface, like this, something like this. You can see this is the real, no, this is not the real, this is the real, the real physical jewelry object. You can see this color with this kind of pink colors on the surface, this kind of enamel coating on a metal surface. We are going to, the idea that I have is getting something like this with a shiny colored surface. But at this point we are creating the composition. We are not creating maybe 100% decision. The final place, the final form, we are just creating a composition. Now we are worried more about the balance, distribution, the silhouette. Instead of, once everything of those elements are done, we're gonna start thinking about the sculpting, adding details on the surface and so on. So let's see, maybe we can leave a flower there, because at this point I'm not worried about what is happening in the middle of flowers yet, because I can consider that part of the detailing process. At this point, as I just said, is just making a composition. We can start putting two flowers like this. Let's see how they looks like. Like this. We still need the snake, very important element of the process. Also, we can, let's see if I apply a new branch. Maybe let's apply a tube here. Let's see how it works. Like this. Okay. And now we can start thinking about this neck. Maybe two flowers has the same size. Let's see how it works. One bigger than the other. So then it's going to be necessary to start thinking not now, because we are still at the very beginning of the designing process, but at some point it's going to be necessary to start thinking about the assembling process. That means that most of the time the jewelry designs, they are not casted as only one object. They are split into different parts that needs to be assembled. Most of the designs solder it, but because they are easier to cast and to print and to cast, for getting better results, instead of trying to print and cast everything at once. So at some point it's going to be necessary to start thinking about the assembling process. Okay, let's start thinking about this neck. Let's keep this safe. Okay, let me have a go for trouble. No, actually, just wait to see. Yeah, it's just my point. My personally, I'm still gonna understand the usage of. Okay, let's start thinking about the snake. When I'm creating the snakes, maybe I can say that 90% of the times I'm using sea spheres. My opinion is the best way for creating the body of the snakes, when I have more control, when I am creating this kind of so curves and coiled bodies. I have more control than any other methods of creating the base mesh. So then let's append a sea sphere. Let's grab the sphere. Let's make it smaller. Let's start thinking about, I'm using now the shortcuts from the keyboard, the Q, W, E, the Q for drawing more spheres, W for moving the spheres, and E for scaling the spheres. That's the reason why maybe you are not watching. Maybe you can see here on my top left corner how the buttons are moving. That's the reason why I'm using the shortcuts. Maybe now I'm using the W. Where do I place the neck? Maybe the neck could be here or here or here. Maybe what I'm gonna do is let's append the cube, because I'm thinking that I need the head as a reference. Just for having something like a snake head. Let's make something very quickly with something like this. So let's elongate, let's make a taper it, something like this, something like this. And now we can grab the bottom. Okay, something like this. Let's send it to the center with the symmetry on. Okay, I'm not still 100% sure about the shape of the head, but more or less this is going to be enough. Maybe we can now apply a subdivided, apply some polishing. Let's subdivide one more time to don't lose the shapes we just created. So this is going to be just a reference for the head, right? And this neck needs to be more rounded, like this. Okay, just for having a reference and then for knowing how big is this is from left to right. We are having a 4mm head wide. Yes, yeah, I think it's going to be good. And now we can start designing without symmetry. Oops, without symmetry, of course. Where the head of the snake will be placed, and maybe here, or maybe here, maybe a little bit bigger. And now we should be start thinking about the flowing of the snake. So in terms of having something like this. Maybe we can put the head. I like where is it? Maybe a little bit bigger. Maybe the branch should stay below here. Something like this. And maybe we can start thinking about making coiled, or maybe ending the something like this, more or less. Let's try with the sea sphere. So we place the sea sphere at the beginning. Let's make it smaller, like this. Just an advice that I can give you: if you just start working with sea sphere, I recommend to you always to set up the brush size to 1 to its minimum size. It's gonna be more easier to control the sea sphere chain. So if we go now to draw, you can see at any time that you are growing a new sphere, you press the shift key. You can start adding a sphere with the same size as the previous one. And you can go to the move, and then you're gonna start placing them. This is the reason why I love to use sea spheres when I am creating snakes. It's like it gives me the possibility of sketching the body at the same time, because we are not sculpting polygons, we are not moving polygons. They are very easy to know, to see how it works. It's like using a sketching tool, very quick to move the points, to make it longer, to make it thicker. So it's very, I love to use sea sphere because it's a very effective way of sketching forms. You know that you can add more spheres in the middle of the chain, for example, just for having more control points, like this. We can start moving this way, this way. We don't have to be very worried about the perfection of the path. That means that you are seeing that here we have a very sharp corner here. At this point it's not important, because once we have the real polygons, we can start relaxing the mesh and getting softer transitions. But at this point, it's, as I was saying before, it's like we are just sketching like this. Let me see some references here if I'm able to grab any ideas. Yeah, maybe we can put this here. Maybe we can put this down. We can apply a new sphere here. And maybe we should be checking the design from all of the angles when we are creating this. As I said before, the main view is going to be the front view, but the side view is going to be important. Maybe this is telling to me maybe the branch, this branch is not having the right place. Maybe we can no, maybe we can make it smaller, or maybe let's keep invisible, and maybe we can add more spheres here. You can make in one sphere, you can apply the action on the sphere or on the join, just for making them smaller, just for getting the transition from the body to the tail, like this. Another reason why I find very useful, maybe the branch is too thick at some point. You can use the pinch brush to make things thinner. Maybe we can, let's see what we does with the tail. Oops, here is the W for moving. Let's make the brush size smaller. Maybe it goes behind here. Maybe we can apply one more here. This is a very old school method, the spheres. I think not many people are still using the spheres. But I find them very useful when you need to create the snakes or maybe dragons or things like this. Maybe the head. The head is facing up. It's facing to the right. Yeah, maybe this. Maybe we can this. We are still need to think about the flowers. This. Okay, let's save it. Let me read. Uh, Thanks, Alejandro. Are you referring to the snake, or are you referring to what tip are you referring to? Mm-hmm. The snake method. Yeah, yeah, we can call it from today with this way. This snake method. This is the method to start creating. I'm gonna start getting maybe more complex than desired. If you want to get rid of sea spheres, you need to be in draw mode with Alt key. You can start removing sea spheres like this. But it is very difficult to, when you are creating snakes, you can see here how complicated could be the body. So you can start making complicated. So you can be here the whole day trying to find the right distribution of curves. But at this point, I think I am start getting too much complicated forms. As I was saying before, I'm looking for more simple forms. So for that reason, maybe I'm going to try to don't make it so complicated. And just for trying to be here, try to show you as more part of the process as possible. Because if not, we can be here completely 2 hours trying to find the right distribution of the snake. So let's try to go further. For example, if you are happy more or less with the, just for showing to you my method for this with the snakes. Next step, once you are happy with the form, next step to take is okay, the neck should be, don't forget that the snake has different volumes or different forms depending on the part of the body. It's a very common mistake to try when you create a snake completely with a circular profile or with the same thickness, but you give it different thicknesses depending on if you are working on the tail or on the neck. It will give you more sense of realism, of reality. Of okay, once you are happy, you can you should go to adaptive skin and then make adaptive skin. You can use the preview. This is what we are doing. This is how the mesh looks like. But keep an eye here. You can see now we are about to create a dynamesh. I don't want to create a dynamesh. This setting comes by default with ZBrush. You should change this setting from 256 to 0. And when you click on preview, you are now creating a polymesh instead of a dynamesh. So don't forget to change this value first. I don't care about the density. The density means the levels of subdivision that you are about to create when you are creating the make adaptive skins. That means it by default is 2. That means that we are about to create 2 subdivision levels, number 1 and the number 2. I think it's good enough. So let's make that type of skin. Nothing happens here and nothing happens here, but on the top here on our toolbox we have this new tool called Skin Sphere. We should attach or append this skin to the list, clicking on append. Where is it? Here. And it's this one. We can hide this one because this one, it is still the Sphere chain. We can keep this as original just in case we want to start over again, creating a new version, for example. And let's keep this. And now the way that we have start relaxing the mesh and start getting a more organical snake shape is going to the polish option and start polishing. As more polishing you apply to the mesh, you can start the mesh start being more relaxed, and then you will start getting. And now you're gonna start getting something like this. And now we can start moving this. Now we're gonna start playing with the real polygons. Now it's good to know, for example, when you are creating the snakes, they are not 100% like a tube. This is very important. Now what we are having now, the profile that we are having here, it's completely circular, but we are looking for more something like this, where we have the belly and the back. We should go from here to here. And also we can take an extra step. We can go to this shape, which is very cool, with one reference that I found here, where we have the spin on the back. So we should go from here to something more like this. When we have here a little of this, it will give us more, I think, a better rhythm on the body of the snake. But what I have in mind now, this is the ideas that I have now, doesn't means that they are going to be the final ideas. I was talking about to try to put this row of stones following the path of the body on the spin, following the spin. But instead of having a combination of stones and texture on the sides, like this one, for example, here we have a stones and texture on the sides, the same thing here. Maybe instead of only putting only one row, maybe we can put two, or maybe some random stones, for example, having a row following the path of the snake. Oops. Having something like this following the path. Okay, but we can apply some more random stones on the body, just for getting that kind of patterns that the snakes has on the body, something. But only one row, but just adding random here and there, some more random stones, just for giving the sense of scales of a snake skin. This is the idea that I have now. Let's see what we get at the end. But okay, returning to the shape of the body. Here we have different polygroups based on the spheres organization that we did before. I'm going to create only one polygroup, Control W. And now I'm going to create a polygroup on the top with a mask, like this. Control W on the cap. And now let's create a new polygroup on the tip of the tail, like this. Control W. Now they have now we have three different polygroups. Now Control Shift and tap on this one. Now we have as isolated or only visible the body. And now I am going to, with the control key, you can see here when you start using the control key and the gizmo, you can start applying. This is what we call topological mask. You can see now that the masking is trying to follow the path of the polygons, but instead of the default gizmo that comes by default when every time that you launch ZBrush, I prefer to change it. You know that you can use different kind of gizmos or different kind of transpose lines. You can see by default it's selected the transpose, but I prefer to use the transpose classic in this case because I have more control on the mask. You can see here it is better defined. You can see here, you can go here and you can go there, maybe there, maybe like this, or maybe I think if I follow using, I only going to have one polygroup here and another polygroup on the back. So let's create a new version. I'm going to subdivide the mesh because I liked this idea where you can see here at some points you can see the back, but it's like the body of the snake becomes twisted and you can see part of the back, and at some point you can start watching part of the belly at the same time. It's not just a boring flat straight snake, so it is coiled like this, and for getting something like this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start painting with the mask, with the mask pen like this. First of all, let's decide first, maybe it's going to be this way. That's the reason why I needed more polygons than before, because it's better for getting a better defined mask, because when you're trying to paint a mask on a very low poly mask, it's very difficult to see what you are painting or what you are masking. Or even better, you can change your focal shift to -100 like this. This is the back, this is the back, so that means that the belly goes here. Oops. Goes there like this. This is it starts twisting at this point like this. Follows this direction, for example something like this, and at some point becomes twisted again. Snakes are very tricky. It's not just a tube and that's it, so it takes time for getting cool snakes, so they're not as simple as they looks like. Maybe that's the reason why I enjoyed them a lot, because maybe I tried to make them more complicated than necessary, but at the end I think it deserves to spend a bit more time. Let's see. Okay, it start looking good. This yeah, it's good enough. That means that the part that they are masked is the back where the scales or where the stones will be placed, and the part that aren't masked are the belly, or where we are going to see the white metal. Maybe something like this. I'm not sure if we try to. Maybe we remove this. Okay, let's see how it works. This is what we get. That's for trying to, okay, maybe it's not going to be 100% definitive. Always I'm trying to make definitive things, but during the designing process, you can see you keep taking decisions. Maybe at some point you decide that what you did is not correct and that you need to start over again. But yeah, that's trying to use my process. Now, once we have this mask, the way of apply a new polygroup is Ctrl W. Let's make it again to get a new color like this. Ctrl W. Now we are getting 4 different polygroups: the neck, the back, the belly, and the tip. Now it's time to, as you can see here, this is kind of jagged limits between the 2 different polygroups. It's time now to start using this smooth groups brush, where we can start relaxing the limits of the 2 polygroups. You can see here, okay, the topology still looks strange because you can see when you start relaxing the limits between the 2 polygroups, you start getting triangles and non-regular polygons, but it's not a big issue because now we are going to create a new. Oops, I have an issue here. I'm going to try to select this auto groups. No, auto groups. You and you should be the same polygroup now. Fixed. You see here where I am. Here, let's skip. This is good to make before go to the ZBrush because we will get cleaner results on the new mess between the limits of the different polygroups. Like this. Like this. Maybe we can apply some polish by features. Some see, you can see here what we are getting. Maybe we can adjust even more the limits of the polygroups. For example, no, I can like this. Okay, and now it's time to maybe we can, without this feature, we can now go to the tool. Where are you? Tool option. We can go now to the ZBrush. We can tell to ZBrush we are looking for the same amount of polygon, keeping the groups, don't apply any smooth to the groups, and give me quads and regular forms. So there you go. You have a completely new mess, but it follows the limits of the different polygroups. Now we can apply some polish by feature, but not that much. You have noticed that you're applying one polishing, and you can see that the effect is too aggressive, and you are getting things thinner than expected, then it's time to subdivide the mess. What I'm saying is like making the material harder, so more difficult to polish or to remove material. So you can start polishing now, and now you're gonna start getting the right place. Like this, I think. Like it. Maybe it looks nice. Now it's time to start refining forms. For example, start refining a little bit more the curves, but just small tweaks. That means that it's not going to be necessary to create a completely new curve, a completely new form. We are just modifying a little bit the forms that we are having with the small adjustments. Or maybe we can put this here, put this there, but the main form will remain the same. From this point, they are just tweaks. And also one thing that I'm coming to my mind now, it's I was talking about before. At some point, it's going to be necessary to start thinking about assembling, and the idea that I have is the snake and the branch will be printed and casted in two different pieces. At some point, it's going to be possible to fit both together. So it's like twisting them. So it's not good. So they should be necessary to be possible to be assembled for put them together. So at this point, I don't know if they are going to be possible, but we should be start thinking about it. Maybe if we like how it looks like the snake, we can change still the shape of the branch. But maybe the branch is not going to be necessary to be so. Maybe it's gonna be better to make it more simple, to be able to I don't know how to say it, to put the branch inside of the body of the snake, and just leaving different contact points for being able to apply soldering points. Okay, let's see. So we need to think about it. This is this kind of challenges that we have. This is the part of the designing jewelry that I enjoy the most, when we should be thinking about the complicated solution, and maybe we have the branch, we have the snake, and maybe we should be thinking about where to place this, the flowers. But okay, maybe we will leave that for next streaming. Hey, dope boy, welcome. Like more pave setting than rail setting. Yes, rail setting, that means that because it's gonna be easier to make the distribution like a rail, like all the stones in a row. With that, we are going to have the limits. They will be placed this way from this. They will place it here and here. But at the same time, let's start placing some random stones at the bottom, just for breaking the row, just for giving the sense of skin texture or a skin effect on the surface. Keep in mind that this is going to be a very small object, so we're watching the things on the screen very, very big, but this the more or less we're going to watch the like this way, more or less. Let me check. We said 65 millimeter. Yeah, more or less something like this. Here we're having, yes, even smaller. It will be more or less something like this. So we are going to place very tiny little stones, maybe 1.5 stones, maybe more or less. Let's see how it looks like. If we go to IMM draw size, I mentioned before, so 1.5. put this here. Let's the branch hasn't subdivision levels yet. Here we're placing, I think 1.5 stones will has sense for getting. We will talking about the pave distribution or the stones distribution lately on future streamings, but the idea is for just for having this as a sketch. Maybe we can combine the 1.5 with 1 millimeter, just for getting this kind of thing. Something like this. You're here. Maybe something more like this. Just for getting some bright line in the middle of the snake. When we are wearing the brooch, we're having good reflections on the surface here on the back of the snake, but with a central row of the stones. As I was mentioned before, the idea is for getting this color scheme like with green and white, so white gold or silver with central row of green crystals or emeralds, depending on how much money you want to put on this design, depending on the client. And that's it. And maybe for the belly, maybe we can think about the kind of a rose texture like this. Okay, let's see what we do. We will see it in the future. Let's split this, and this is like in a scheme. And if we go to the flowers, maybe we can put this flower. Maybe now it could be smaller. Maybe here. Just for getting. And maybe this branch, we can send it to the other side. We can put it here just for filling this empty space. And maybe we can put this flower here. And then this one should be maybe this one here. Maybe this one. Yeah, maybe something like this. Oops. Now it's time to keep changing things, because maybe the balance between the body and the branch is not very good. Okay. Maybe the branch should be this way. Okay, a lot of decisions to take yet. I'm going to use the Sculpting Pro to start getting another thing that I have in mind is maybe we will also, for example, I'm going to remove this part of the branch, put it here, because I will add here a hinge. I will explain you what I mean. So we will put here a kind of a hinge here. Okay, this is going to be the body of the snake, and this is going to be another part of the snake, like just for when you are wearing the brooch. It's like the tip to don't, because this is going to be the ending, a very pointy part of the design. It's going to be easy to pinch, or I don't know how to say in English, to make a damage when you are wearing the. So now adding here a kind of hinge here, like this, where we can have a movable tip part at the end of the snake, maybe here or maybe here. We should think about it, just for getting a movable part at the end of the snake. With this method, we can have a floating tip at the end. Maybe we are going to have a more complex design to build or to assembling, but I think it will add value, I think, to the design for getting something like this. So we should consider this idea at some point. Okay. Hey Hamed, welcome. Let me check your comments. I have missed some before wrap up, because we're 22 minutes over the time. Okay, let me save this first. Let's keep it safe. Dexter, much why is it important to make the tapas at the end? I think that yeah, this is the taps here at the end of the process. It's good to differentiate. I think I have missed them here, because you got them here. Because let me think how I can explain to you. For example, when you have this is something like this. Okay, maybe something more different, something more like this, and you try to make the distribution. It's better to cut this here and to make a new polygroup here, because when you are applying the polygroup, it's more difficult to continue the mask till the end of the tip, because you are having a very small amount of mesh. So it's better to cut it, and when you are splitting here, it's better to end here to try to end at the end of the tip. And also for UVs, when in this case we're not going to, maybe yes or maybe not, I'm not sure, but if you have something like this and you split here and here, you have polygroup number 1, this here you have the polygroup number 2, and this is the polygroup number 3. It's easier to ZBrush to ungrab the mesh when you have 2 caps at the beginning, at the end. Thinking about a cylinder, and you're thinking about the cylinder like this, like you think about the cylinder, it's much better to ungrab the mesh when you are about to create UVs. If you have different polygroups, you have the mesh split in different polygroups. So it's the same concept translated from the cylinder to a snake body. So just split the caps from the body. I think it has more sense to try to grab the idea from the cylinder, apply to a snake body, splitting the ending to endings, and just having the central part as the central cylinder. Okay, hope I've tried to explain it as better as possible, but sometimes in English it's difficult, you know. Yeah, prongs will a much more beautiful texture. Yeah, prongs will, yeah. Also, we should be thinking about the prong systems. You have here the references. You can see here they are simple prongs. You can see 1 prong for 4 prongs for each stone, or maybe shared prongs. For example, 1 prong is shared with the next. But also the prongs will add more texture to the surface. So, but we should think about it. And also we can create kind of a channel like this, where the stones are underneath, a little bit inside of the body. I think also looks nice because it creates a shiny border here. Let's see. We should think about it. forest, and I think at this stage there will be no problem with mounting the snake and the branch. Maybe, but we should think about it. Maybe making the branch as I did, maybe more straight. It will be easier to assemble. Maybe now the branch as it is now looks a little bit short. Maybe we can make it longer. I don't know. I'm still. I think maybe I will try to work a little bit more in my free time before the next streaming. Just for not being here, spending too much time. But this is the idea. Also here, maybe the flower could be a little bit on top of the snake. It's gonna be cool, I think. Hidden parts of the snake out of the branch. Let's see. This is the idea. The stones are custom brush, or it is included. This is a custom brush. This is a custom brush made with meshes made with another software. You can create your own custom brush inside of ZBrush. Prop found trader, how much you charging? I'm charging for what? Maybe I'm charging for a kind of design like this. Okay, we should think. Let's try to complete it first, and let's them to know how much time it's going to be necessary to put on it, and then we can start thinking about the money, baby, in the future. Yeah, you can create any of your meshes. You can, for example, you can figure out, for example, that this is your hem. For example, I don't know, maybe you can import any of the mesh that you want. For example, you can figure out, let's make a polymesh. This is your hem. Just place them here, just facing to you, and as easy as going to the brushes, going to brush, and create insert mesh. ZBrush will ask you for the first time, and you are about to append the thing that you are creating to the existing brush. Click on new because you are about to create a new brush, and now here you have your custom brush where you can start placing like this. Ahmed design, thank you. Nice ornaments, thank you very much. Will you create right? I mean, maybe a file with a round head. For the mechanical part, you can import OBJ hem. Yes, as Forrest is saying that you can import any of the mesh that you want. Once you have your mesh on your canvas, you can make your insert brush. Just like taking a picture. So the position, the orientation is going to be very important, because if you take this orientation and you go now, you can insert mesh and you want to append a new version. Okay, so you can see now we have two versions. We have this one, and now you have this one. So the orientation when you are placing the hem on the canvas is going to be very important. But once you have the right orientation, you should go to the brush and click on the insert brush, and that's it. Isn't the snake too short? Isn't the snake too short? It looks more like a worm. Really? You think that the snake looks like a worm? I think the branch, for me, I'm watching the branch a little bit short compared with the snake. And maybe the branch could has, here the branch is this one. Maybe the branch, the angle, maybe we can modify a little bit the angle. But considering the let me hide the branch. Considering, come on, hide like this, I think it's going to be long enough. Keep in mind that it is a little bit bended. But we put it straight, it's going to be, it has the right the right length compared with the snake, with the maybe the head. maybe the head should be a little bit smaller compared with the body, but I think it's good. It has the right proportions, I think. Harsh is saying, hey, Nacho, how to colorize or paint the models in ZBrush, like skin color or face, and how to store that information. You should, as easy as, for example, you can, for example, I subdivide this mesh. I apply mod subdivisions. You open your color menu. You can, here we have white color. For example, if you select a new color, green, you can fill object. You can now, if you change the color, nothing happens because the mesh has color information. Previously fill it with green in that case. Now if you go here to the paintbrush, you gotta start painting over. You can see here you can start painting with a different color. How to store that information, and with file format we can save them. For example, if you have this and you have planned to print it with a color 3D printer, you can go to here to the 3D print hub, and here you have this file format BRML, which it record the color information that you have on the vertex. So if you export this format, you will be able to use a color printer or print this directly with different colors. If you are talking about 3D printing. If you are talking about texturing or UV mapping, it will take different processes like exporting the maps and so on. Forest, I'm removing the tip on the tail and the head of the snake altogether. You get the YouTube tube with open ends. And the zero meson doesn't bunch up, making the card topology. Yes, you can remove the tip of the tail and the head, but and the snake all together. But you are saying that you have, in this case, I have the head separated, but you can blend, or you can create the body and the head both at the same time. I'm not sure how I'm understanding to you properly. You get the tube with opening ends and the zero meson. Yeah, but yeah, could be. But when it, based from my experience, for example, if you attach the head to the body, it depends on the shape that you are doing. Maybe the topology that you are getting here in the union between the head and the body, when you are placing the scales, the transition is not very good. Maybe that's the reason why I prefer to split the head from the body, but it will depend on the kind of snake that you are doing. Maybe in some cases could have more sense making them as one mesh as you did, or maybe in some cases has more sense to split them as I did here. Hey Kat, welcome. Thank you very much, Kat. I'm glad to see you here. And it's still a lot to do with the design. You can see here I'm still in need to create many different things, but this is just the beginning of rich design. Another software, Blender Babbitt. I think ZBrush in this case is my favorite. Wonderful. Thank you Alejandro. Cat, this is actually a plugin that includes hems. I used that plugin to bring it a hem that create a custom insert multi-mesh brush. There is actually a plugin, and no, I think as far as I know if it already exists a plugin with hems. It is the plugin bring utility part of that has no. You can use, for example, here you have this plugin ring utility where you can place stones, but what here always we are talking band ring, so simple circular hems distribution, but you can put hems here, and also you can no hemstones. You can select, yes, here you can select different hem cuts. You want round, emerald, oval, marquise, pure, and custom. But here always are talking about circular distribution of hems. We are not we are talking about pavés of completely different distribution of hems. You should place them one by one using an insert brush. Will be interesting to see how to achieve a more hard surface-like shape with hems in different sizes and mirrors. Ribbon, I mean, kind of like this snake, but with a more rectangular profile. That also has yeah, could be, but you are referring, yes, it could be, for example, we can achieve, for example, at the point that we are now, you are right, for example, here the belly maybe is too rounded. Maybe it's going to be necessary to get a more flat surface here, but I will try to the finishing that I'm looking for is not so organic like this kind of snakes, but I will try to find a balance between, as you said, our surface looking and organical shapes, but not very complicated, as I was saying at the beginning of the streaming. But I don't understand what you mean with house of hems in different sizes and mirrors. Yeah, also I have here the plan to put different stone sizes, place them randomly with a central row of stones following the path of the snake, but some random distribution on the sides, just for breaking the symmetry. But okay, I'm open for ideas. Thank you very much for your comment. A helmet design I tried in the beginning because it was afraid I found that ZBrush was better for sculpting. Yeah, could be. It's just a matter of personal tastes. Both are great software. I bought an iPod version 2, but it still needs some additional plugin, but worth really that they are just not similar. I'm still looking for things like from Mass under the Alpha. Yeah, the iPod version is still under developing. They still have a lot to do with it, but maybe in the future we will get something similar inside of the desktop ZBrush. I don't know, maybe. But at this moment, I prefer to use the desktop version of ZBrush with the weird, strange interface. I prefer it. Okay, so we are done for today. Thank you very much to all of you who have been here during the whole streaming, and to all of you who have been sending questions, suggestions, comments. I have been enjoying a lot these 2 hours, more than 2 hours today. I will be here next month at the middle of the month. I will try to book my new streaming, maybe at the end of the month or maybe at the middle of the month. So I will wait you here. So we will keep working on this design. I will try to work a little bit more in my free time to get more advanced point in my next streaming, but I will be here again asking your question and your comments. So thanks to all of you, and have a nice day, and see you in May. Bye.